Hello, hello, hello. My name is Nicholas Rivas, and I do videos on politics and stuff. And today we're going to be talking about some fun things. I keep saying that, but these are not fun. My only fun videos I ever talk about is the UFC one. So, sorry if I ever get your hopes up. We're talking about the Syrian war. Um, this is not a funny topic. It's just the approach I have is really fucked. So yeah, I basically wanted to talk about kind of building off of my last video where we talked about the prison system. I started thinking about this admission of guilt when it came to the ideas that many of critics of the Syrian war, just like the prison system, many of scholars, many of professionals within the fields of science, of social cultures, just of all, or anthropology, right? We we've had vocal critics against the prison system, stating how it's ineffective with combating crime. The imprisonment of people is unjust, typically uneven, dependent on race. And many looked at that like, oh, you're just a libtard snowflake. For years and years, they of course didn't use that, that language, but the idea that people have been outspoken about this, and just recently with the Department of Corrections and the Department of Corrections, the prison system, basically saying that, oh yeah, we want cheap labor. That's why we like imprisoning people. Like for the longest time, it was bad people just need to be locked up. 2 + 2 = 4, right? It was so simple. And now, with the admission of guilt, we should feel ratified, but nothing's changed, right? Like they tweeted that we want cheap labor. That's why we imprison people, right? That should be the war crime of a century. That should be the prosecution of a century that we've heard, but nothing happened. And the same goes to the Syrian war, where we've had, and just Middle East presence in general. We've had people like Trump come into office, and for the longest time during the Bush administration and the Obama administration, and even before that with the Clinton administration, and anytime we were in the Gulf War, we had people critical of our presence in the Middle East. And the idea that we were just helping them have a democracy, we're trying to create a democracy so that they don't, we don't create a vacuum and they come back to haunt us, it's just been thrown out the window when you had people like Trump walk into office and say, we're there for the oil. What the hell are you talking about? We want the oil. Like, it's on video. He's full face saying we want oil. What other reason why would we be there? Like the whole world was feeling like a crazy person, when in reality it was the truth, and nothing's changed. Our presence out of Afghanistan showed that we pulled out of Afghanistan by Biden, which was a good thing. And even though the process was sloppy, I don't think there could have been a better way to do it. Even if you had Trump, even if you had Obama, I don't see a world where we have done that. Of course, I thought I put my phone on mute. There wouldn't have been a world where we did that better, right? And so the idea that we are crazy for doing this, for saying this, should be ratified. We should be, wow, we were right. Let's make change. Nothing changed. The reason this popped up in my head was, I think it was, what's his name? Like John Bolton or something. Yeah, John Bolton. Had to look up his name and make sure. He basically came out recently and said that we had a coup, in the U.S. and that's a real coup. Like we've had real coups when they were talking about the January 6th. Attempted coup. He came out and was like, that's not a coup. I'll tell you about a real coup. And it's crazy to hear that, because that's what many anti-war people have been saying, is that we've always been in these places. We've always attempted coups. We've always attacked Southern American countries. We've always attacked Middle East countries. We've always attacked African countries. We've made these places inhabitable because of our actions to oil, to gain land, power. But many of pro-American war people have said, no, we were there for this reason. Like that mask, that guise is gone. The disguise is completely gone, and it's the truth now. Or it should be taken as the truth. But many of people say, well, who cares? The goalpost has been moved. Well, yeah, we were there for a coup, but what about it? It's so gone and distant, and the justification for a society of doing it is just now solidified. we were like, I was arguing with people about this. I had a friend saying, hey, we weren't there for the oil. We were there to protect democracy. And then when this came out, I said, hey, what the hell? Like, this guy just admitted that we were in these places not for, and it's obvious. It's been known. It's been known. When you think about Panama, when you think about Nicaragua, we were there with death squads to ruin a country. That's it. That was our, I mean, imagine someone did that to us. We would, that would be World War III. But the idea was a different country, and we don't really know about them, and we don't really know about the people, and so far away. We did it so easy. And nowadays, it's so ingrained in us. Nowadays, we believe that we were there for, I mean, it's just propaganda on propaganda, years and years of pressing the people and saying we are there for good, we are good guys. I mean, American propaganda works so well, and it's not me being an anti-American. If anything, I'm anti-American if I don't call us out. I mean, if somebody, like, if we did the same things, if we had the same things happen to us like we have been doing for the past 50, 60 years with other countries, we would be going to war with them. To think we've had multiple aircraft carriers on the Black Sea pointing at Russia. Meanwhile, the Cuban Missile Crisis was started because they were parked in our backyard. I'm not saying both are good, but we were obviously not innocent. We were antagonistic just as they are. And maybe that's unfair. And if I were to go pound for pound, maybe one side is more antagonistic and really prodding the war drum. I don't know. Or playing the war drum, I guess. I couldn't tell you right off the bat. There are definitely instances where we're justified and we had to protect ourselves, but there's definitely justification that we were in the wrong when we had ties to the Syrian rebels and we were, killing, I think the death of the dictator. Oh my God, what was his name? The dictator for, I think it was Syria, the Syrian dictator. Oh, what was his name? Was it Gaddafi? It was Gaddafi, right? When Gaddafi was killed, wasn't that in part because of us? Because of our ties to the rebels and funding them and giving them weapons? Just as it is in Afghanistan, just as it is in Pakistan, we have always made these vacuums. I mean, and it's not even just us. You can even point to Russia with Lebanon, or not Lebanon, Aleppo. With France bombing the people after the Charlie Hebdo massacres. I think France did, it was 2015 they did the bombing, the Paris attacks. I forgot exactly what it was, but I can't remember. But we basically have a history of bombing these brown and black nations from Niger to Syria. We've left a vacuum in there. Their governments are, on a very thin, weak legs, given, i.e., Afghanistan. We're not there making democracy, and if we leave today, there would be no difference if we left tomorrow. So my whole proponent of this all is that I think the whole proposition I'm saying is just we just need to leave. We shouldn't be in these wars, but obviously we're in there for oil. We're in there for greed. And now that we know that that's most of the case, I mean, especially with Trump being so vocal, and I think many of critics being justified in their saying that our presence in these Middle East countries are now a dead giveaway. We should have no presence. It's really just a dick measuring contest to control the world. That's not a controversial thing to say, but there is a big group of people who will shoot that down and say you're crazy, you shouldn't be saying that, yada, yada, yada. We're in a position and time where it's well known, yet it's not well known. It's correct, but it's going to be considered wrong and radical. And that's the crazy pills we're taking. Like back in the day, it was easy to be so anti-Vietnam War and still be looked at with some respect. But the anti-Vietnam War people were looked at as kind of crazy too. So it's never changed. But I think the idea that now it's more prevalent that, hey, we are in the wrong. We are the baddies in this situation, yet we're still looked at like it's crazy. Like back in the day, the people who were anti-Vietnam were in the right. We shouldn't have been there. We were just trying to stop communism from spreading to our Southeast Asian allies or Southwest allies. And we were only there to, pillage and destroy this society. And we didn't care about their outcome. We just didn't want them to have that. We didn't have that loss of power in that region. So you say that, and it's like, well, yeah, no shit. But back then, you were looked at as crazy. Now we're in the same bubble. And it's always been like this. Even with World War II, there were people saying we shouldn't go to war. We should stay, and at the time that was looked at as pretty fair. And now we'd be looked at that with some radicalness, like, oh my gosh, we couldn't stop Hitler. Oh, I can't believe there's people saying that, like we shouldn't have went into the war. There's no clear answer, and hindsight's 2020. But the idea that we're there for democracy should, at the very least, be an argument that's just thrown out the window. We shouldn't be saying that anymore. We're really not there for this. Be truthful. If we're there for the oil, at least we can know how to proceed from there. But with these two debates going on about why we're there is stupid. It leads us nowhere, and it's exactly what the propagandists want us to do. And so it's just an unfair world that we're kind of living in, where we have very ground and sound arguments against why we are there, and meanwhile they're saying, well, what about this, what about that? Like, we're completely being derailed by people who are obviously looking for profit. So it's a very odd situation to be in, and to, I guess, continue to debate with, because it's just like the prison system debate in the last video, where there's no good faith. They're not saying like, oh, well, prisons, we're trying to get the baddies, and it's just part of the game, and yada. No, they wanted cheap labor. They knew they wanted cheap labor, and the privatization prisons fought so hard to make people not talk about that cheap labor. They were doing good by doing this, that. We're lessening the pressure of prison systems by having these private prisons, and we're just trying to make a better society and better rehabilitation. Meanwhile, it was just cheap labor. It was just cheap labor. They didn't care, and you know, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I think if you have a good faith discussion about this and argue about it with the correct knowledge of where we stand, like I'm glad Trump came out and said this, because now it makes it easier to go, hey, our presence there is very hard to justify. It was already hard to justify as it was, but you know, it is what it is. I will let you all be, and thank you so much. And yeah, please watch my videos every other day. Bye.
Sending a decoy. Got a bad guy. She got bamboozled. Heads up, got one here. I'm back. You miss me? Well, I sure to save the day.
Hostile.